Okay, so this session is going to be short. We are going to finish at 4 o'clock, but if you do need to dash off early, that's also okay. And it's all about Cinahl. So Cinahl is a subject-specific database. So if you're not a health student, probably not ideal for you to be here unless you're in LMS, for example. So Cinahl stands for the Cumulative Index of Nursing and Allied Health Literature. Hence, it's a database designed for your subject areas. Hopefully the slide just changed. Tell me if it did. So what I'm aiming to get through in the next 40 minutes is to demonstrate Cinahl. So we're not focusing on principles of literature searching. You could go and look at that information on SkillUp should you need to, if we haven't covered it in your particular program. What I'm focusing on today is how you actually use the database. So hopefully you'll feel more confident about how you use it and if you're doing it right, kind of thing. So we'll look at some simple searches and then we'll move on to some advanced searches, how you combine terms, how you exclude terms, how you truncate terms, and then we'll look at how you find a medical subject heading to add into your search to improve your results, how you go about accessing the full text, because how unhelpful is it if you find a result but the full text is not included in the database, and then how you might export your results and save your searches. So while we do that, while I get into Cinahl, I'm going to ask you to paste in the chat. This is so while I change my slides and everything, you'll see before you an image. What I want you to do is post in the chat how you personally would describe that image if you saw it on social media, for example, Facebook or Twitter. If you were going to do a hashtag for this picture, what would it be? And then we'll come back to that later in the session because I'm going to use it to illustrate a point. Okay, so in your Canvas module, you will always have a link in the top left-hand side to StudyNet. I'm just going to StudyNet so it looks more familiar to you. Sorry, I have to admit somebody. Okay, hopefully you can still see StudyNet now. So the second link in is to Online Library. So if you haven't searched Online Library before, and I haven't got time to go through it today, there are materials on SkillUp that will help you. So I'll signpost you to SkillUp shortly. So all of the databases live in this A to Z list of search sources. So you'll find health databases there, but you will also find ones for education, psychology, and so on. So we have a short list of databases. To get to them, you scroll down and then you will find the health toolkit and the social care toolkit. So if you're working in social care or social work, you want that one. If you're a nursing student or similar, physio, etc., you want the health databases. So click on that link, and then here the first link is to the Library SkillUp module. So as I say, if you need a few videos on how to get started with Online Library, go there first and watch some of those. But the specialist databases live under the second link there. And the general ones are here, and then the more specific ones are here. So Cinahl Plus, Cumulative Index of Nursing and Allied Health Literature. So once you've opened the database, just going to take a little while because I'm screen sharing. I'm going to slightly enlarge the size of it, so in case any of you are looking at it on a phone. So the first thing to say is we fund your access to Cinahl, but if you want to save any results that you search for, you need to have created a personalized account, which is free, and you can associate it with any email address, but you do need to have created a personalized account. So to do that, you click on sign in. And then if you haven't got an account, you need to click sign up and then select which email you want to use. I obviously had one, so I just clicked sign in. So in this basic search option, you have no kind of filters or anything special. You just have the basic search option. Sorry, I need to admit someone again. So in the search box, you can just put some basic terms, and it might even suggest some for you. Health literacy and heart failure, for example. Oops. And that's as advanced as it can go within the simple search interface. And you'll see it's given us 157 results. It's better to do an advanced search because then you can do much more nuanced, developed search. And you do that just by choosing that one there, the advanced search option. And then you get presented with more options. So when you're in the advanced search, you can choose to search different fields. So if you leave it as the default option is title, abstract, and any keyword that the author has assigned or that is in a medical subject heading. So when you search with the default, which is fine to do, it will give you very broad search terms. If you want it to be more precise, you can choose title and abstract only. So a search that I'm going to use as a model example today is one that I did with some students last year. And so the research question, hopefully you can just about see that, is what are the job seeking experiences of physiotherapists from ethnic minority backgrounds? So based on that, and you'll see if you've watched some other videos that I've put together for you, you start by kind of scoping out some terms for that particular topic. So if I take that first search line, terms that relate to job seeking, if I want to search title and abstract, I would need to enter it twice and then change the drop-down menu to title and also abstract. But we need it to say or because we want it to search this field or this field rather than just both at the same time, because then it would need to be replicated. So this or this, title or abstract, and click search. Like I said, you absolutely could leave it as the default option, and then it will search title, abstract, and any keyword. So you'll see that got 1,415. If I clear it out and just do it without any title or abstract and just leave it as the default, oh, it made no difference. So it's still got the same number of results. So you'll see sometimes it does make a difference, sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on any particular search line that you've put in. This first one I'm going to delete. So if you want to delete something, just select it by clicking in the tick box, and then you can click delete search, and it will just delete that one line unless you've selected another one. I'm also going to delete the other one because it's going to get in the way. So we've just got one line at a time. So that was the first kind of topic, job seeking. So then if I'm doing another search line, this one about experiences, I would just copy that over or type it in if you're working it out as you go along. Type in the terms, click search, and it will conduct the second part of the search. So each of these are separate concepts. They mean different things. That's why they're on different lines. Now you'll see the line about experiences got a lot more results than the line about job seeking. So again, you just take the next part of the search, the bits that is about physiotherapists, paste it in, click search. So you've done all the planning beforehand, and this is just putting it into the database. I'm just going to get the last one. Now, as I've done this before, I know that this is not a good search, which is why I chose it, because it gives me room to kind of show you how to improve it if it doesn't go as you wish it to. So each time you finish searching in that box, rule number 1, clear it out, otherwise it causes problems later on down the line. So now we have 4 lines of the search that are about different things. So that each one is a different concept, but on the line are different words that mean the same or similar. So once you have all of your concepts, you might have 3, you might have 4. You pick each one, and now we want the database to combine them, to bring them together, because we don't just want papers about job seeking or papers about new graduate physios. We want them to all be in the same paper. So this is where we click search with and to combine them. And as you'll see, no results were found. And this is the point where students might feel really frustrated. So this is why I thought it would be a good example to show you how you can improve your search strategy. So the first thing to say is these terms could be, we could reduce the words there. So we could just try employment. We could also expand them to add in terms like recruitment. So I don't like the way it's presenting there. Just confuse me. And that. So job or jobs, employment or employee. So one of the things that was on my list of things to show you was truncation. So if I search the word employ with an asterisk symbol, I'll get employee, employee, employer, employment. So it's given me a broader set of results to work with. The same with job, but I am a little bit worried about putting an asterisk when there's only 3 characters, because that can create, if it's a word like men and you put the asterisk and you were looking for information about male patients, you would get things about mentoring and all sorts of mental health, because that's extending a word that's really got a common root word. So sometimes the asterisk can be unhelpful. So I'm just going to put job and see what happens. And I'm also going to try recruit or recruitment. So needing to think about terms that might be about employer, employability, all the words that might relate to someone job seeking. I'm still expecting it that it won't give me anything. It doesn't. So it's still saying 0. One of the issues is that this is a really small number to work with, 32. So obviously I could just look through those 32 papers and see if any of them are relevant. That might be one option. The other option is to make this a much less terms, but sort of broaden it out by doing that in the same way that we've made this broader. We can make this broader. So it was 1,400 and now it's over 400,000. So again, we can click edit and we can think, okay, well, really, I need it to be about physiotherapists, but it might say physio. So I'm going to go physio and any other word ending from physio. So physio, physiotherapist, physiotherapist. And then, okay, well, they're in the US, they're known as physical therapists. So I think I need to try that. So I put the asterisk there and I go like this. So again, physical therapy, physical therapist, physical therapist, the plural. So they all mean what we call physiotherapist. So that is a broader way of saying what I had said before about new graduate physios. And now you can see I'm up to 73 results, and I can keep adding terms and see what I get. So these terms about ethnic minorities or BAME or ethnicity, I could edit that line to make it more specific. So I could, for example, say, or black, or Afro-Caribbean, and so on. So I could add in more terms that way. Sometimes it's written as BME as well. Every time you use an acronym, though, you need to be careful, because acronyms, depending on which one it is, like NHS you can use because that's a really common one that's used in the literature. But if you start to use, and ICU is another good one that you can use, but if you use parts of a word that then turn out to be a drug, it brings in lots of unhelpful results. What I like to call noise in the search that you don't want there. So that's just to be mindful of that. So once you've got a search and potentially have some results, oh, that's given even more results, you can then start to think about, okay, let's have a look at these 137 and see what we've got. So the first thing, obviously that looks like a really relevant paper, so that's reassuring that there is something. You'll notice that these are the subject headings that are appearing on the article, and we're going to talk about subject headings a bit more later. So first thing I'd want to do is try and, now because 1992, it's unlikely that you're going to be wanting to look at papers that are that old. So you can use this button if you wish to squeeze the date range to be more recent. Or you can edit the line, which is how I prefer to do it. So you can edit any line by just clicking edit, and it opens up what you've done. And so this one says S1, S2, S3, and S4 because that's the line where we've combined the search results. So in here, you might decide, okay, last 10 years, last 5 years, last 7 years, whatever you want. This is quite narrow. And then you might say, well, I only want peer-reviewed articles because that's what my lecturer is expecting. So I'm going to choose that. Unfortunately, I can only read in English, so I'm going to choose English language. And they're the filters that I would generally always apply. There are other ones available, but not every paper is properly given these tags on it, essentially. So it can be a bit of a risk to go beyond that. So I usually would stick with those three: date, peer-reviewed, English language. And now it's down to 36. Now, obviously, those are in the last 5 years. So again, I might need to go back and edit that if there wasn't enough within that 36 that I want. So again, I would look at the results and I would have a scroll through, make sure that they are about what I thought they were going to be about. If there's a word that keeps cropping up that is bringing in unhelpful results, I mean, these are not as good as I would like them to be, if I'm honest. I would go back and take out that word, for example. Or one of the tips that you can do is, if you know that this is the most important term, or this is the most important term, you could try searching that in the title only, and then it filters out a lot of the noise. But it depends why you're searching. So I wouldn't use a title only approach if I was writing a critical literature review, where my search strategy is going to be assessed as part of the product that you're producing, I guess. But if I was just looking for an essay, I probably would choose the title only approach first, just to filter it out a bit. Okay, I'm going to go back to my slides now just to see what I was going to do next. Okay, so we've talked about combining terms. Let's talk about excluding terms. So if there's a word that is cropping up a lot that you don't want, say I'm getting loads of papers about children or childhood. First of all, I have to search for the phrase or the word that keeps cropping up. And I might say, don't give me anything with that in the title. So first of all, I'm going to search for it, and then I can remove it afterwards. But you have to search for it first. So you'll see there are 95,000 papers with children or childhood in the title. So if I want to now exclude them from my 36 results, I say S5, not S6. There is no search with not button, so we have to do that manually. So S5, not S6. We just type it in, click search, and it will remove any paper that had children or childhood in the title. And it was 36 and it's now 32. So those 32 will now be even more likely to be about what I wanted them to be about. Okay, so that was excluding one. So we talked about truncation. So if I, just as a demonstration, if I search nurse, I get nurse, nursing, nurses, nursed. So 131,000. As opposed to if I just search nurses, I get 91,000. So this is a much more efficient way of searching, rather than having to write out every single variation of how you might say nurse, nursing, etc. Nurse, student nurses, student nursing. You just use the truncation symbol, the little asterisk, and chop off the end of the word. But remember, a minimum of 4 characters. Otherwise, it gets a bit unruly. Okay, the next thing is the medical subject headings. So I'm going to go back to the chat and see if anyone described that image that I shared. Did anyone describe it? Stop sharing for a minute. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Heesuk. So the image that I showed you was of, let's put it back up. Here we go. This cute dog. Now, we might describe it as cute dog. Somebody else might say Labrador on a bench. Somebody else might say happy dog, and so on. So we have all of these variations in natural language when we look at something, whether it be an image or it might be a researcher giving the name to their article. So subject headings allow us to control that vocabulary, make it tighter and easier to follow, so that we always, even if I say cute dog or you say cute Labrador or somebody else says happy dog, we all get to the same image because there's a process of controlling the vocabulary. So I just wanted to share this a bit bigger. Okay, so within databases, there are subject headings, and these are commonly known as MESH. MESH is sort of this overarching term that's sometimes used, but it stands for medical subject heading, and they're common within healthcare databases. So the MESH actually belong to PubMed. Cinahl has its own database. Scopus doesn't have a thesaurus, but the thesaurus is just the term for all of this way of controlling the vocabulary, and they're organized in a hierarchy, which I'll show you in a second, and they're just generally known as subject terms or subject headings. So this is an example of a thesaurus from Cinahl. So the broader term is health occupation students, and then underneath that a narrower term would be allied health, and then you'll see another sort of term on the same level would be nursing students, but underneath nursing students it might be graduate nursing students or male nursing students. So narrower groups, narrower terms sit underneath a broader term. So I will show you this in Cinahl. So we use the subject headings because they can help us find useful results or expand our results if we're not getting very much. So, for example, if I search, oh, sorry, I'm just putting my slipper on, physiotherapists, I just type in my term, but rather than clicking search, if I want to open the thesaurus, I need to tick the box that says suggest subject terms and then click search. And it doesn't have physiotherapists because it's American. It calls them physical therapists. So it says physiotherapists use physical therapists. So if you wanted to add that term to your search strategy, you would tick physical therapists and then click search database. And then you'll see it appears in a sort of its own what we call syntax, the way it displays within the search line. It has MH for medical heading, and then it has the heading, and it encloses them within a set of brackets. So you'll see it's still applying my filters, so I might need to take them off. Alternatively, what I could do is copy this and add it into a search line. So I could just copy that text and then click edit on this line and then do or the medical heading and then click save. And so then I'm searching the free text and the medical heading all on one line. It may or it may not expand the number of results you have. It kind of depends how you've approached your search, whether it's adding any new terms. But that is their purpose, and that's how you find them. So you can look just about anything up in the medical headings, and there may or may not be one. So when I was doing some searching with midwifery students last year, I found that I was using a topic of deaf pregnant women, and I found that there weren't that many papers tagged with deaf, but there were some with hearing impairment. So sometimes you have to use multiple subject headings in order to really represent the topic. but you find them by searching, by typing out the word, clicking suggest subject terms, clicking search, and then it opens up the thesaurus. And then you can decide which term means what you want it to mean. If you're not sure if the term means what you want it to, you can click on the speech bubble icon and it brings up a note to describe that concept. And if that's not what you mean, then you can carry on and go to the next page and so on to find what you're looking for. Sometimes the terms are quite archaic and in some cases quite offensive, because even though they're not the term that's used now, they keep the older historic terms that would have been used in case anyone is doing historical research and looking back at old records. So that's why they're still there, but they are sometimes a bit offensive, so just be mindful of that. Okay, so back to our search history then. So that's how you use a subject heading. That's what it would look like on a line. And I would expect a really good search to have free text and the medical subject heading. If you're doing a module that is going to assess the search. Let's look at if I've missed anything else. How to export your results or get the full text. So let's look at these 32 results then. So the first thing to say is obviously from this, you've got the title. You could probably see immediately if something is relevant or is not relevant. If it is relevant, you might want to double check that it's what you thought it was. So you can open up the record by clicking on the title. Here are some subject headings which I might consider adding in. Read the abstract, and then you've got two options about how you go about obtaining that paper. So sometimes I should say it will display the PDF there, and it just depends which journals are subscribed to through the database. I wish they all displayed there, but they don't. So one option might be to copy the title, go back to online library, and then use this search box just to paste it in, click enter, and it should take you to the article if we've got a subscription. There we go, there's the paper. So you would just click on the link and it would open it. If in the event that we didn't have access to it, you can still request an interlibrary loan copy. So for that, you need the DOI, the Digital Object Identifier. So to get that, you scroll down. It always begins with a number 10. I have no idea why. Copy the text and then go back to online library. And then in your library account option, you'll see these are the books I have out at the moment. There's this option here, your interlibrary loan requests. Click on that. Click create new request. Read the T's and C's, and if you're happy, click yes. And then in the DOI box, just paste your DOI, click enter, and it will auto-populate all of the information. So you can just check it's the right one, and then click make request. That goes through to the interlibrary loans team, and they will source a copy for you. They are very good. You can usually get it within just a couple of days. So you can use that facility. It is there for you. If you want to kind of email yourself a list, you can save them to your folder. So to do that, let me go back. So you've got the list displayed. This one is already in a folder, but I'm going to add that to a folder as well. I'll just add it to my folder for now for illustration purposes. And then they will be up here in your My folder. So click on your My folder. And then you'll see there are currently 7 articles in my folder. If I want to email them to myself, I would just select them all and click email, and it will open up a page where you leave it as EBSCO sending from, but then put your email address in there. And then you can change the citation format. So you can have it in any format, and you can have it in APA 7, which is obviously what we use in HSK for our referencing. So then you can send that to yourself. You can export them. So for those of you that are using a reference management software like EndNote, for example, you can email, you can export it as a RIS file, and then it will email you that RIS file. So that's how it works that way. One other thing I want to show you, if you're not using a reference management software at the moment and you don't really want to get into learning a whole new piece of software, zbib.org is a very easy, friendly, don't need to spend ages learning it piece of software to control your references in a nice, easy way. So paste in your DOI, which I showed you to get from Cinahl, in the record, scroll down to the DOI, paste it in the box, click Cite. It will bring up the reference, and you just need to check it doesn't need editing. So one thing about APA 7th is that it needs a sentence case. So if there's a title, for example, this software would, if you wrote the word Twitter, it would take off the capital T. So your job would then be just to edit back in the capital T because it doesn't do sentence case. And then it will appear on your list of references. And then you can just click copy to clipboard and then paste those into the end of your Word document. So you can kind of keep a nice stack of them here. And it also works for ISBNs as well. Won't work for anything like a nice guideline, but at least it keeps some of them in one place. It can be quite a handy little piece of software. Okay, so saving results then. So we talked about exporting them, but what if we want to save the search that we've done? So to do that, we just select the lines that we have. We click on the Save Searches and Alerts button, and then we name it Monday. Click Save, and now your search will be saved. To get to it, you need to go to the folder, and then it opens up the folder. And if you scroll down here, it says Save Searches, so they'll be there. The articles that you put in your folder will always be under articles. Have I forgotten anything? Let me go back to my list. So we've done saving, we've done emailing, we've done exporting.